When I saw this little kit right here, I had to have it, and here's why. Many of us probably have plenty of supplies we could gather and take with us wherever we want to go. However, finding the one kit that checks all the boxes just makes it so much sweeter. Now, you probably know that us YouTube artists get offered a lot of free product in exchange for a mention, a review video, or some other benefit to the company. And I have been replying no so many times per week that it's crazy. And I almost said no to this one for a reason I'll tell you about later. However, when I saw this had a zipper that enclosed all the contents, that it had a paint palette that slid out like a drawer, that it had 100% cotton paper, a water brush, and slots for pens, pencils, additional water brushes, etc., pen loops in other words, and a carrying strap, I was sucked in immediately and I knew I had to have this. So the reason I almost said no is because I thought at first that you had to fill this with your own paint again, like many of Lightwish's other palettes. And I just wasn't interested in doing that again at this point. I have filled a lot of palettes recently, and frankly, I didn't want to. But then I figured out this actually comes with pre-filled pans, and I know from experience that Lightwish paint is a pretty decent quality, and I would be completely happy with it for practicing outdoor sketching. And that's what I intended to use this kit for. So I know I've already mentioned a few things that came in the kit, but let's go through everything. It comes with the plastic palette that is drawer style, filled with 24 very nice colors of watercolor. The palette has a ceramic coated mixing space that was plenty big the couple of times I've used this kit already. It comes with a pencil with a very nice eraser, spray bottle so you can spray your watercolors. These watercolors are meant to be sprayed and used and kind of stay gooey. They're kind of neat. They remind me of the Gansai Tambi watercolors. It comes with a travel watercolor brush that closes back within itself, so you could use the cup that it also comes with, silicone cup with a lid, collapsible, and use water that way, or you could use a water brush, which it does come with. I did find that this water brush was not my favorite, and I ended up switching it out with one in my studio, but it does come with a water brush, so if you didn't have one at all, at least you'd have that to start with. It comes with 20 sheets of 100% cotton, 140-pound watercolor paper. The first sheet, which I'm not sure is included in the 20, is the swatch sheet already printed for you. There is, however, an error on the swatch sheet, which I'll explain later. And I do end up redoing it because I want my swatch sheet to live in this palette and I want to be able to see it when I am painting. So I'll show you how I work that into this process later so that it's always visible. So I'm going to speed through this first section of swatching because there is an error when you first get this kit and they haven't fixed it yet as far as I know. In fact, I need to email them about it, make sure they know. But in the very bottom row, the second, third, and fourth columns, I believe, are swapped. So when you get to gray, violet, and deep magenta, those are actually opposite. Ultramarine and violet are opposite, and turquoise blue and cobalt blue hue are opposite. I think the rest are correct. Also, I am using the travel brush for the swatching and I am losing a lot of hairs, and that can happen to a brush at first. So I am going to continue to use it and hope that that eventually stops. It did slow down in my process of using it for this video. It did not completely stop yet, so I don't know if it will, but I will keep you posted on that. Since I knew I was redoing this swatch sheet, I just played in the middle there, but here the colors are dry. It is a wonderful selection of colors. So after using the existing swatch sheet as a template and I used my light board, I traced onto a new sheet of paper, but you can see by the holes that I put my swatch sheet in the opposite direction, and I have a very good reason for that. In the meantime, I wanted to try out their water brush and see what I thought. This first color here is lemon yellow, and I did not fill the water brush with water because I had a pot of water nearby. In fact, I was testing their silicone cup to see how sturdy it was, and it's awesome, by the way. Anyway, just dipping the water brush into that for creating this swatch sheet over again with colors in the right order this time. This one is permanent yellow, and I could tell already that I wasn't liking this water brush. You probably saw near the beginning of the video when I was explaining that it came with a water brush that I had to take the scissors and cut off one that was sticking out sideways, and then the tip was kind of in a disarray, so not very great for the water brush. This one is cadmium orange here, this color. And I did try and get pigment information from Lightwish, and they don't have it yet. My contact said they are working on getting that information out, so hopefully we will get pigment information soon. In the meantime, just use it for sketchbook work, plein air practice, and so on. I think it's just fine for that. It's great paint. It's super sticky. I'll explain more about the paint later. It's actually not super sticky. It's not quite as sticky as like Roman Schmal or M. Graham, and I don't mean to compare it to those brands per se because I don't know that it is, but like when you get Kuretake Gansai Tambi paint wet, it gets kind of sticky. And oh, look at there, I just gave up on the water brush. Ugh, that fourth color is permanent orange. This one is orange red. The one following that will be cadmium red, but to get back to the consistency of the paint, they made it that way intentionally so that you can activate the paint and it will stay nice and juicy while you're working with it outside. That was a built-in feature of the paint, as they designed it that way specifically, just so we're clear. This color here is gray violet. It's one of my most favorite colors in this kit. And I think you can see by the footage while I've been talking to you that I keep losing so many bristles from this brush. I almost gave up on it. It was really frustrating. This color is deep magenta. It's very pretty. And like I said before, I do start to lose fewer bristles the more I paint with it, but it's so crazy at first. So I think that they could maybe, I don't know, do something a little bit different, make it where all these bristles aren't going to fall out right in the beginning when you're first trying it. What if you're not expecting it? Anyway, this color is ultramarine blue. We have violet next, and there are chapters in this video, so if you want to skip the swatching and get to the painting, you certainly can. This one here is turquoise blue, one of my favorite colors. It's so pretty. This one took a little bit to get a strong enough value, but not too bad. This one here is cobalt blue hue. The ultramarine and this one are granulating. There's another granulating one later too. I was really glad to see this came with the cobalt blue, even though it is a hue, because it's a color I really like to use in skies as an alternative to ultramarine or some of the other colors. Next up is Prussian blue. I don't ever mind seeing a Prussian blue in here, but that's a tricky color, right? It goes on so bright looking, and it's only when it dries that it goes to that deep blue. So it can be a bit tricky to use, but it's a beautiful color. Next is yellow green, one of the most handy colors you can have in a plein air palette, in my opinion, along with one other you're going to see here in a minute. This one here is grass green, a very bright, just green. If you need a very green, that's going to be the one you're going to go to. This is sap green, and it's actually pretty bright as well, but darker than the others. So it's a great, basically mid green. I loved having it in my palette when I used it outdoors a couple days ago. This one here is another one of my favorites for painting outside. It's olive green, just a nice classic olive green. Next up we have Viridian, and I almost thought for a second that this might be a true Viridian because it was pretty light, but I don't think it quite has the right hue for a true Viridian, and it would be weird for them to use a true Viridian, but you never know. Next up, one of my favorites in this kit. I have a lot of favorites in this kit. This is Hooker's Green. So a nice dark green, which is great for plein air painting, at least in my area. I went out with it this week. Did a lot of trees, and I loved this color for that. We're going to follow that one up with yellow ochre. Great one again to have for outdoor painting. The only thing I would add in this kit probably is a buff titanium, right? There I am, losing more bristles. This coming up one is a pretty amazing color. It is light red, so definitely like a red iron oxide. And their burnt sienna, which is the one you're seeing right now, is a lot darker, more of a deep brown than traditional burnt siennas. but it's nice to have in this palette. And oh, I am a happy girl if you give me a dark brown in a palette. This is Van Dyke Brown, and once it gets activated, you get this nice deep brown. Oh, it's just gorgeous. The last color here is Payne's Gray. What a great color selection. They really did a good job picking the 24 colors for this palette. So the last thing I did to set this palette up for me to use it just like I want to is label all the colors, of course, since I had to make my own swatch sheet, and put it in just like this. This way I can hold this in my left hand because I'm right-handed. You can switch this if you need to for going the other way, and paint on the paper that's blank that you're seeing right now, but always have my swatch sheet of my colors available so I know what I'm going for. And eventually I'll learn the palette and probably wouldn't need it, but it's nice to be able to have that option. And now we're going to try painting, and right now we're painting on the back side of the paper, so that's a good test too. So I painted this guy and realized, ooh, you know, this would be a really good opportunity to test masking fluid and see how this paper and masking fluid get along. So I stopped painting for a minute, applied some masking fluid in some areas that were going to be flowers, and we will see what happens. I then continued painting. This is the swapped out water brush, and I wanted to fully test it on a painting to make sure that this water brush would work for me when I was out and about and not be surprised about it later, because it's not my usual Pentel. I needed a smaller water brush, and this is the one that fit in this case. And spoiler alert, I keep the water brush in there. However, I looked for a brand name for it. It's unlabeled completely, so you're just going to have to find one that fits if you get this case, if you don't like the one that comes with it. Now I'm using the Payne's Gray puddle I already have and mixing some greens in it so that I can get the color green that I am exactly thinking of in my mind. So you can see the mixing space there doesn't bead up. It works really well. It's plenty big, and I'm still just so tickled with this design. So I'm just making sure my masking fluid is completely dry before painting this mountain, because this mountain is going to turn into a meadow and it's going to go right over the top of those flowers. Now the painting is completely dry. I just removed it from the folio to do this. I'm using a masking fluid eraser and pulling it off, and it pulls off beautifully. Now this was the Winsor & Newton masking fluid, so I don't know about other brands, but this one worked great on this paper. And I am going to speed up this part as well because dropping in all these little flowers takes a very long time. It's kind of detailed. And then I mix a darker green once I get all these lovely red flowers in, and do some stems and some leaves and some grass and so on. And then one of my little paintings like this with mountains and sky would not be complete if I didn't add in a few birds. And I did mess up the birds pretty effectively, but luckily you can lift paint off of this paper. Yay! And now I have this pretty little picture to look at along with my swatch sheet every single time I paint. I think this will make me quite happy because little things like this do make me feel happy. I didn't quite feel like I was done painting, and if you'll remember a video I did at the end of last year, it's called Sketchbook Ideas for Years. I'll link that in the corner for you. I printed out like 120 or so photos of things that I would be very happy to paint at any time. I also have an envelope full of some random color cubes, but I want to go through the photos and I'll pick one or two that kind of inspire me today. And I did put one aside, but this tree one is really calling my name. So the tree one is going to be, I put in a small sketch just to give myself an idea of where to place things, using their pencil, which is very hard lead, which is good because it leaves really light lines that don't show through your watercolors nearly as much as the softer leads. So you can see this time I'm using the folio on its side, so portrait style. I'm mixing up a nice dark green using the Hooker's green, a little Van Dyke brown, a little Payne's Gray. And I'll be doing some negative painting around the snow in this scene. I'm still using the brush that came with the kit. I'm hoping that as time goes on, I'll lose less bristles, as we already talked about. My methodology here is to just dab on the green around the snow shapes, and then I'll come back in and add some shadows on those snow shapes to make it look more rounded. So other than the bristles sometimes falling out, this brush is very nice. It holds a good amount of water. It comes to a pretty good point. Not as fine as a black velvet, of course, but fine enough that I could get these little shapes near the top of the tree. So I just repeated that for the other two trees. I also have to say that I like that they chose a large round brush for this travel kit. Most travel kits I see come with a super tiny round, and that's kind of frustrating because if you have a large round with a good tip, you can do really large spaces quickly, like you sometimes need to do when you're outside painting, and have that tip for the really fine detail. So this was a really good choice, as long as the bristles cooperate eventually. I wanted to use some of the violet this time, so I'm using the violet for the shadows in the snow. A lot of people will use a blue for shadows in the snow. That's fine too, but I was inspired by violet. I have that blue nearby from my other painting. Perhaps I'll pull a little bit of that in here and there. Like you're going to see right now. I'm like, hey, there, let's use some of that. Change up this color a little bit because, you know, the shadows aren't all the same. These are closer to the trees, maybe a little darker. So it's fun to alter the color. There's nothing in nature that's always all just one color. My next step here is to put the shadows on the snow on the trees. That will give it shape and roundness and heaviness and heftiness and all of those words. I did want to include that mountain that's in the reference photo in the background, just gives something back there. So I'm just using a really light version of gray, which I put into my purple puddle, if you can see that on the mixing space there. And we're just gonna lay in a little mountain back there. Next up, I did want the sky to have a little bit of color. I just didn't want the top of the paper to stay completely white. So now I'm just laying in a little bit of sky. So if you'll notice, the swatch sheet's on one side, this painting's on this side. So I am using both sides of the paper and both sides paint really nicely. And you'll notice here that I did put a yellow glow in the sky and I reflected that down onto the snow just a little bit. And last but not least, the very important step of signing your paintings. And it's always at this step that I'm like, wait, I actually think I need some grasses here, or a bush here, or a rock here, or a shadow here, or more contrast here. And I always go back and change a few things, even after my painting gets signed. But that's an artist's prerogative. And I think I finally decided that this is good. So the next part of this is really fun because you just slide in your palette and it has a lid. So even if your paint is wet, it doesn't matter. It's not touching your paper. You have a little pocket in the back for a reference photo or paper towel or whatever you want. And everything else just fits inside. And if you want to keep painting, you open the clips, pull your painting out and pull the paper out. It's not hard. There's only 6 holes. Put your painting in the back, put the paper back on top of it, and your painting is safe, and you have a fresh sheet ready to go. And they do sell refills of this paper. Now, I do have another painting demonstration for you, but I just wanted to show you real quick how the pencils and brushes and everything fit in there. Plus, there is a pencil, what do you call the band, in the back under the palette, which I do have. I put a micron in it. And I wanted to show you what this looks like slung over your shoulder. The strap feels like it's some kind of satin or silk. It's nice and wide, so it doesn't really hurt you that much. This is a small little case, so it's not taking up much space. It's probably smaller than a lot of ladies' purses. I have a really tiny purse, so it's slightly bigger than my purse, but not by much. So it's great. It's just really portable. Here is me out in the fields, if you want to call it that. Plein air painting. I am painting this picture of this barn here that we were lucky enough to be invited to this property. And here I have my sketch drawn in using their pencil, and I like to rotate the band where the zipper is around to the other side so it's completely out of the way, and then I can pull out this. I do that with my pencil cases too, by the way. And I am ready to paint. I'm going to spray my paints so that they're nice and activated. And then I'm going to use the water brush that I put in the kit to start my painting. That's what I have so far, but there's no but. It's starting to rain, period. It's not bad though, so we'll see if we can stay through the rain or not and finish this scene. I got rained out, so I just moved to a covered porch. I just have to finish the trees in the barn and the rocks. Okay, almost everything, but whatever. I persevered, and here it is all finished. I knew if I didn't finish it there on the spot that I would be unlikely to come back to it. So I made myself finish, and all the ladies and I compared sketches. We all painted different parts of the property. It was fun. The colors were great for this. I had a really enjoyable time. The paper was great. It was easy to layer. It was easy to remove color when I needed. It was nice. So here is the reference photo again. And here is my finished painting. They are quite different, but that's okay. If you like this kit, there is a discount code below, so make sure you get that discount code before you go buy this, and using my links definitely helps me out. Well, I hope you found this video helpful. If you're looking for a plein air kit or even just something you can toss in your car at a moment's notice, this thing is so slim. It's just tiny and lovely and awesome. And I'm taking it painting today for 3 hours. And the only thing I am adding to this kit is this little rag here. And yep, even the rag fits inside this case and it still zips. So that's a win. I need a rag for the water brush. All right, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have a lovely day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now. Hello? Why were you crying? Why were you crying? Hi. Hi. This is Dozer. Dozer, we need to loosen your collar. You need to let me take it off instead of just crying.